We're going live. All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, March 3rd. Happy March, everybody. Happy Backdrop Thursday. We're going to do a quick run through of the Backdrop design meeting agenda. Wes might be able to join us a little bit later to give us an update on theme, so we've moved that section to the end of the meeting. Stuff going on backdropcms.org. We currently have a profile page up. Wes has done a re-theming of the edit form for that profile page, which is the last part of letting people have user accounts on Backdrop. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we did a check-in on that, and there was some JavaScript error on the edit form of the user page that needed to be resolved because he wrote some fancy JavaScript to make it look really pretty. And as soon as I can get that issue resolved, we can merge those changes in for the user profile page. So that'll be good. I'll look at that today and see if we can get that done so we don't have to talk about it anymore. We've added a blog news section, and that was waiting for a design review from Darius. He'd been really busy lately, and he's supposed to start working on that now-ish, I think. So hopefully we'll get some feedback on that. It's obviously fine as it is, but it would be great if it was kind of more in line with the rest of the design and branding of our site. New since our last meeting, I added an event listing to backdropcms.org, and that was just so that people who have events that are backdrop friendly can add their own. They don't have to email us to get them added to the calendar. And so on backdropcms.org, in the sidebar of the news page, there's a listing of like 3 upcoming events that are backdrop friendly. And then there's a link there that says more events that'll take you to the events page that will have a whole bunch of events. Right now I think there's like 5 or something where people are either giving talks on Backdrop or Backdrop people will be to talk about Backdrop. So anyone else who's curious can find people at those events. It's very simple as it is now. It's just kind of a name of the event, a date, and a link to the location of the site where you can register for the event. I was thinking about allowing people to add some more information like a location. There's a description field there, but I didn't fill that out. And then as events get posted, I have been assigning them to people I thought would like to manage the event. So like we had one for Sandcamp on there, which is of course now passed, and I assigned it to the guy who's managing Sandcamp so he can make his own changes to it. So if anyone hears of anyone who's like, how did my event get on there and how do I change it? It might be just because I couldn't figure out what their Backdrop user ID was to assign the event to them, but it's up. It also needs a design review, and I was thinking that maybe we could throw that into Darius's upcoming design review of the news section, since it's going to be on the sidebar. He might be able to think about it at the same time. Right now we don't have very many events. In the future we might want to give people a way to search by geographic region if that starts to get messy. But I think it should be fine for now. And then, those will hopefully stop being Drupal events and start being generic events, and then maybe end up being specifically Backdrop events. But I figured for now just having a complete list would be fine. All right, other stuff going on. We are starting to gather a list of all of the stuff we want to include in the showcase section. That's becoming higher and higher priority where people want to see sites built in Backdrop. So I had a list, I think there's an issue on 176, a list of sites that we can go and look at that did that particularly well. And then we'll hand off all of the information we want to collect about each site to Darius, and he'll do a design for a showcase probably after we get the design review for the news section done. And then a couple of other things that are coming soon. Doing a service provider listing. We'll probably do the same thing and start off super minimal, see how many people are using it, how much information people want to share, and kind of adjust as necessary. And that'll initially also be modeled off of service provider listings for Drupal that have worked pretty well. And then we, of course, have a bunch of follow-up issues to modules page we're going to try and get done. We have a design for a themes page that hasn't yet been implemented, and then we need to come up with another design for layouts page that'll show some kind of graphic representation of layouts that are available as well. That might also be pending more than one screenshot. There's a core issue about how to handle that, which would probably be super useful for layouts as well. Anyone who's interested in Backdrop marketing in particular, we do have a couple of issues that are related to design in particular. We've got this one on setting up branding assets. I know someone's working on that, and they've just been really busy lately. But there are other stuff like that too that maybe doesn't involve any coding skills. If you wanted to just kind of spend 5 minutes on helping us with branding stuff, you should check that marketing tag in the GitHub issue queue. For backdropcms.org. There's a lot of kind of low-hanging fruit there we could use help with. And that's it for backdropcms.org issues. Next up is Backdrop the product. Right now we're working on Backdrop 1.4, which should be coming out May 15th. And we've got a lot of big, troublesome changes we'd like to get in there, which are probably going to require a lot of thought and a lot of work. Two of those, particularly related to design, are getting in a new front-end theme and a new set of layouts. But there are a handful of other user experience issues, either ones that got pushed from the 1.3 release or other things that we've noticed more recently that could use some attention as well. So I would recommend checking out issues either tagged for the 1.4 release or with UX in the title if you're specifically interested in those. Okay, so new front-end theme is something we were hoping to get an update from Wes on today, but I think he's still in another meeting. Mike or Andy, were either of you around last week when he gave an update of what he'd been working on?
Yeah, he was working on the theme that he created, the basic theme. He posted a link to it in the chat the other day, so it is up on GitHub for people to download and try. I haven't done it yet. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, but I think that's primarily what he's been working on.
This is great. Okay, so it looks like it's called Basis. I'm going to throw this link into the agenda too.
Funny because no one remembered you guys were away last week, so they're all sitting in the chat going, "Is this thing starting?"
Yeah. We were just trying to figure out why we're having such calendar issues with.
Yeah. And then I'm like, guys, you know they're not coming, right?
We were doing a backdrop training. It went very well. Yeah, no meetings last week, though. All right, so yeah, great. So his theme is called Basis. I posted a link in the agenda. That looks fantastic. I can't wait to try it out. Super exciting. Woohoo! I don't know what he is. Do we have any plan for like grid system or like using Bootstrap or not using Bootstrap yet? Does anyone know like technical implementation details? No.
No, I don't know what he ended up deciding on. There was lots of discussion about Bootstrap in general, but I think people aren't really differentiating between the Bootstrap grid system and Bootstrap as a whole. So they're like some problems with Bootstrap as a whole, but I definitely think we should consider just the grid system.
Yeah, I think it would be good if we could get just the grid system into, well, I don't know how we want to handle it. If we want to put it in core or if we just want to put it in our layouts somehow.
I believe there was discussion about actually, yeah, I think there's discussion about putting in the libraries directory because it's, you know, an external library. So if we can get a downloadable version of just the grid, put it in the libraries directory, and then the layouts or themes can use it if needed. Are we packaging other libraries? Like, yeah, we are, right?
Yeah, so Backdrop hasn't recommended the use of the libraries directory for anything yet.
We're putting, like jQuery and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, Nate, if you have any thoughts on this. Like, this grid system thing shouldn't have anything to do with themes, so I don't think it should be in themes anywhere. But I don't know if it should be like part of core so that Contrib layouts can use it, or if it should be like the way Radix Layouts handles it is they include the CSS in like the layout project, and then all of the sub layouts like include the parent project code. But I don't know how we should do that if we have all of these old core layouts that don't have it, or if we want contrib layouts to be able to use the grid system from core. Maybe it shouldn't be packaged in the core layouts directory. I don't know.
Yeah, well, if it were if it were moved into core, if any libraries moved into core, right now there is no libraries directory in core. It's all just in MISC. And so for the 1.x release, it would likely continue that way. That if we bundled any library in core, it'd probably end up in core/MISC.
Is that where CK Editor is?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Well, the other thing we can do is, the Bootstrap grid is not that complicated. You could always just fork it and call it Backstrap.
I'm not sure about that.
I'll throw these out there. Who knows which ones take seed?
I like the name.
Backstrap. Yeah.
Well, that's an option. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like I don't know where it would go. I like the idea of including it. I like the idea of including it so that core could use it for however many layouts we end up putting in core, and then contrib could use it too if they wanted to, and then we would always have some grid system available for anyone to use for anything. Like Views could use it for like Views grids, and yeah, I don't know. It just seems like that could be handy. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, then if we also want to use Bootstrap, like the rest of Bootstrap for this front-end theme, like, do we just want to put all of Bootstrap in MISC rather than trying?
I mean, I don't see us, like, unless we actually design the core theme to use the visual elements of Bootstrap, it doesn't really make sense. Like if we want
so there's that angle, but there's also the like people know how to use Bootstrap angle too.
Yeah, but like the Bootstrap library as a whole is more like half of it at least is about sort of the visual look and feel, and then there's lots of sort of little widgets, but those are sort of can be used on an individual basis.
Yeah.
So I mean, the grid is definitely something we need, but I don't think we're really using any of the other components in core. Unless we want to make a decision to do that, which I don't know if we want to do. I haven't even looked at the new version of Bootstrap much to see what's changed. I think it's 4 now, which changed since 3, since that just came out. Yeah, no, I mean, I'd prefer to just use the grid and put it in libraries. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if we're using any visual elements that are similar to Bootstrap, it makes sense. I also think that if we want to be able to say, like, make a sub-theme of Basic, and now you have a Bootstrap theme that people would know how to work with, there's kind of a learning curve advantage there. But if we aren't, like, if there's no good reason for that, like, people couldn't just install a Bootstrap theme or a Radix or whatever and use that as a base theme instead.
I mean, technically speaking, I think that we should definitely look at how, because basically what's going to happen is we're going to have Bootstrap grids being embedded inside of Bootstrap grids, being embedded inside of Bootstrap grids, like, and how those will interact with each other, and whether they're going to, and what happens if there's 2 different versions installed, like one version in the module, one version in a layout, one version in a theme. That's going to be crazy. But is there any way to containerize those or something like that so they can be used independently, or should we try to keep them all using the same thing, or...
Is there a way to get Bootstrap without the grid system?
Well, you can go to Bootstrap, and I think they have like a selector where you just like use the checkboxes for all the different components you want. It bundles up just like the components you're asking for.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there might be some way we could solve that by saying, like, just, if you need Bootstrap in your theme, exclude the grid system because it's already included in core. And then we don't have the problem where core will be like 5 years out of date. We'll just update core. So I think that'll be less of an issue. I mean, unless somebody's using an older version of Bootstrap in their theme, they don't want to update, and then they update. I don't know. I don't know how Bootstrap is with like different versions of things. But I would assume that if the classes are consistent and the only thing that changes is the way that they behave, that it wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm just imagining trying to like debug layout related issues in like the code inspector and seeing on the right side like the same things like, you know, defined like 3 different times in 3 different files, and it just being kind of like, you know, a mess to slog through. And obviously, you know, it's, you know, CSS isn't a huge performance hit, but, you know, downloading the same styles 3 times every time someone gets to the page is not necessarily like, you know, optimal. So
yeah, but I mean, in a perfect world, that would never happen.
Okay. Anyway, but, you know, it might make sense just to put, like, it just seems like the simplest thing to put Bootstrap in the libraries and then let layouts and themes use it as necessary. I mean, I don't know what the downside of that is.
Well, I mean, just having the libraries directory is something that I don't think we wanted to do.
I mean, you can throw it in the MISC directory then.
Yeah. I think that's fine, and we could even have like a helper function for including the Bootstrap grid in different places.
Yep. I definitely think that's part of the way to go.
All right. Well, we'll figure out technical implementation details as we start technically implementing things, but it is a fun problem.
I'm surprised no one's been like suggesting other grids which are technically superior or whatever else like that, because people have a lot of
opinions
on grid systems, but
yeah, I mean, I think the advantage of Bootstrap is that it's common. I don't think the advantage is that it's better. Yeah, I don't know. I have no strong feelings about grid systems, I suppose. I don't know why we started with that one, but there you have it. Anyway, I think it was because we were starting with Radix layouts and it already used it, and that was the easiest. Like, it's already done, so we'll just use the thing that works, kind of thing.
Stop it, Andy. We don't need your input. Use your grid systems yourself.
You built your own. Well, we could do that. We could create Backstrap and then put in our own flex boxes and go all crazy. Backstrap does not include the Bootstrap grid system. All right. So yeah, we talked about both front-end theme and front-end layouts. I don't know like what the status of layouts is. I feel like there's a pull request to take Radix layouts and just put it in core. But I'm not sure what the conversation has been around that. Like, if we want to put in all 32 of those layouts, or if we want to evaluate whether all of those are necessary or commonly used, and then
only we had some sort of analytics to say what people are using.
I did put on our usage statistics issue to track like which layouts were in use, but that won't work. Well, obviously it's not working right now, but it also won't work to tell us like what people are using before we put it in core. So, like, what layouts?
Well, we might just want to throw a bunch of them in core, and then see which ones people aren't using, and then remove them, and then ask for suggestions for new ones.
Yeah, removing is really difficult in that case for me.
Yeah, yeah, or deprecating or something. But yeah, I mean the other thing, and I know I've mentioned this before to you, Jen, but like, you know, it would be nice to, rather than having to define all these individual layouts, like it would be nice to have like a layout builder that sort of dynamically creates these things, and you sort of like, you know, say the number of you know, add additional rows, and then within each row add the number of columns, and then each one of those columns get more rows, or something like that, just that you can actually build custom layouts on the fly, rather than having to include all of these individually. Obviously, that's a huge technical hurdle, but that's someplace that I'd like to see us go, perhaps maybe for the next version.
Yeah, that was something that was super popular in panels, the layout builder tool, just in terms of like I can click things together, but it was really unpopular in practice because the markup that you had to generate when using it was so bad. Nobody actually wanted to try and like write CSS for that. And performance-wise, it was also pretty horrible because all of that information was stored in the database. But I think that might be less of an issue.
Files. Yeah.
It's funny, Mike, you were talking about layout builders. There was a layout builder actually written for Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. Hilariously called just layout, which of course is the name of our module, and so we would need to rename it to something like layout builder. But anyway, it's kind of interesting to look at that concept at least is kind of already built, created as part of the Spark initiative or Spark distribution, but yeah, I'm not certain about that either. Like,
have
as
you
an
used
idea.
it?
What's that?
Have you used this?
I have not used it.
Oh wow!
I saw a video of it in action though. It's kind of interesting. Like you can set up breakpoints and all kinds of crazy business.
I like the image. It looks like you select which the breakpoints and you can move them around on each.
Yeah, you choose like the number of columns and things like that. But that could be interesting. I mean, something like that should live in contrib first, obviously. Yeah. But
okay.
Hi, Wes. Welcome to the design call. We kind of pulled up your template or your screenshots and just looked at it and said, "Wow, it's looking nice."
I also pulled up his GitHub project. Here, let me put this link in the chat too.
Oh, I think Wes connected and then disconnected. I think his picture. There we go.
Oh, we've got two S's.
And I think I'm upside down. Something's seriously wrong with Hangouts right now. All right.
You're literally hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, no. So I can show you what I have with the theme, if you would like, if we have time.
Yeah.
Okay, let me...
Only if you talk like Dracula.
I don't have it in here, not too many things to think about. All right, so let's see. I'll just share my bottom screen. And...
Oh, this is going to be really difficult, Wes. Your screen is
God, are you
kidding
kidding me? All right, hold on. I'll try a different browser.
So this is what it'll look like upside down.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, no. There we go. Everybody turn sideways.
Oh, Mike, you're muted.
That's okay. I wasn't saying anything of consequence anyway.
Well, let's see. While we're waiting for Wes, is there anything else that is on the agenda for design?
No, the only thing on the agenda was the human interface guidelines documentation, which we still need to work on. We should see if there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, too. No, we just want to see Wes's theme. Hey.
All right.
Write it up.
Oh, no. It's freezing again. I don't know what its problem is.
See a grumpy astronaut.
No, froze.
Frozen writes it up, though. Does anybody have any bad jokes?
I only have one joke. How many astrophysicists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
All right, not frozen. Hooray!
Hooray!
Okay, sharing this.
We'll come back to that later, Mike.
Oh, sorry. It's gonna take me a second. If you want.
Oh. Okay, Mike, how many astrophysicists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Well, it takes one to figure out how big it is, one to figure out what color it is, one to figure out how old it is, one to figure out how far away it is, and then they ran out of funding.
There.
And then where did it go? Oh, my commit message. Anyway. Are you serious? There we go. This is ridiculous. All right. Okay, finally. Can you still hear me and everything? Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so I basically went through and built this the way okay, so like from the markup perspective, I was playing it pretty conservative as far as changing anything. From the CSS perspective, I was being less conservative, and I'm using a lot of Flexbox and things that are going out on a little bit of a limb, and I'm going to see about it might not work, but if it doesn't, I just do it I normally do and use floats or whatever. But see if I can provide good callbacks.
I hate to interrupt, but I think we might be seeing the
Oops.
monitor that your window is not on. There we go. Now we're seeing it. Yeah,
Many monitors. Okay, so yeah. The reason I want to use Flexbox is because it's less liable to break. So for a site builder, it could be a lot sturdier. But for someone who wants to override CSS, it might be a little more difficult. So there's kind of like a discussion to be had there. What if it's still valuable. So anyway, accomplish the design. Oh, where'd Drop go? Drop should be there. Oh, well, he was there yesterday. I'll have to look into that. And I made all of this stuff manually with layouts and just added like custom panels. The repo that I set up that I think it's called Starter Theme Dev, and it has the whole backdrop site. Will have all the config that I use. I also committed all of that HTML into the theme in a static markup folder. So the get started pane is this guy, and then the homepage is split into two parts, two panes. And there was one thing that changed that I need to fix. Is this isn't supposed to be bold. It was something that happened when I was styling the style guide. But anyway, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but there's a little animation on the check mark, trying to add like little slick things like that. I didn't apply that to all checkboxes. I thought that might have issues. If it doesn't, I would totally do it because it's kind of fun. And let's see. So yeah, this is all kind of faked from a content perspective, but the style guide here, I'm having some weird PHP error that's not even coming from Drupal. That's just straight up PHP, so I don't know what's up with that. And this should also not be here. It should be over here. And I think I didn't commit a template for when I moved it from being in my site repo to being the basis theme. So it's drop in my site repo, and then the one that I moved out into its own repos, I changed the name to basis. And so yeah, pretty much everything here is themed. There are a couple things at the bottom of the page. I put in a pull request for monospace. It had incorrect HTML syntax, gahoil, and so I put in a PR to make it appropriate syntax. I don't really like this that it scrolls, but anyway, whatever. No one really cares about that. So tables looking nice. This one, I think I'd like to put this in 7. I took the handles from draggable tables and I basically moved the table over a tiny bit and shoved the handles outside the row, and I think it looks a lot slicker potentially. I don't know that these colors are necessarily right, but
I worry that those look like little hamburger icons.
Okay.
They're double hamburger.
I've seen
like
it used in iOS as a handle, so I honestly hate the hamburger icon and think it makes more sense as like a grippy. But yeah, we could sort out what that looks like. Doesn't really matter. But I like the idea of having this not mess up the first cell, which always bothered me. Kept a lot of stuff from 7. I don't know if I really like this for just field descriptions, but I just wanted to get it out there. Let's see. I have like a little bit of a different color scheme than 7. That would be updatable with the color module when all is said and done. That's pretty much the same. I also thought maybe this should work as an admin theme and a front-end user theme. Not that we would replace 7, but I know some people want to be able to have one theme to rule them all, and I thought maybe this should work for that. So breadcrumbs, pagination. I struggled with the design for this one. I just put something in there and left it, but like I'm trying to keep everything flat, and this is okay, but it's kind of weird. Dialogue looks nice. The CSS for this dialogue is a nightmare. Whoever wrote that for jQuery, either I hope they regret it, or if they still write CSS like that, I would like to have a word. It was nasty. So I would like to rewrite all of the jQuery CSS for this and leave out their CSS. It is not okay. This is whatever. There's not a single actual icon. Oh, no, I take that back. These are still icons. Everything else I did with CSS art. So the double hamburger, on the home page, this is not an icon. This is not an icon. It's all CSS art, which saves us on keeping files in there, but it also means that a dork like me would have to update it. So, you know, if I got hit by a bus, it might be harder to maintain. This X is also CSS art. So is this little guy. And yeah, I want to style this a little nicer and maybe give some attention to the search results. And the comment form, I didn't touch at all yet. I wanted to think about that in context instead of in the style guide because it didn't make much sense to me. And then just talk over the file structure a little bit. So the texture here is black and white, and I'm using a technique that you can use. It's basically Adobe, and Adobe worked with W3C to get something in spec that works like Adobe Photoshop's layer effects, so multiply, overlay, etc., etc. So I forget what effect I actually use, but basically whatever color they choose from the color module. So this is the blue of this button, which I need to change that hover effect. It should not be that light. We'll overlay on the gray texture and then keep it in the color scheme. So it's a nice default. This particular texture, I just spent 5 minutes in a program I have and went, wee! So if somebody else wanted to take a crack at something like that. But I like the idea of doing something like that. And I only overrode layout.tpl.php, and that was so I could have a minimum site width. Oops. A minimum site width. So everything centers, but full color bands that touch the edges of the page. So I needed an extra div inside of every region. I think that might be a safe thing to do in every core layout. It's one extra div, and it enables a pretty common design choice. And there might be other uses for it too. So I don't feel like it's divitis.
Yeah, I noticed that's in all the Radix layouts too. They've got outer divs and inner divs specifically so that they can set the widths on things.
Another thing I was finding was there's a lot of core styles that I wanted to strangle that just had a specificity for no reason, like a.button. There's no reason for that a. Like if it has the button class, I'm gonna make it look like a button. So there are things that I kind of want to swing back and fix in core if it doesn't break things. But to that end, there was something in this file that was particularly egregious, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to remove it. So I did that. So I probably shouldn't do that. So there's maybe something like that going on, and I have not done.
It's actually fine. It would be good to have an example of how to remove style sheets in a core theme.
Cool. Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I haven't done anything with this yet. I just stole it from Bartik and, whatever. And yeah, it's in Contrib right now, and it's called Basis for the time being, and anyone's welcome to have their way with it, but commit to a different module or give me a pull request if you want to go in Basis, or different theme if you just want to do something completely different. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at, and I'm totally open to other people helping me contribute, but I don't want like anyone merging pull request, right? So.
What is the get started thing? That is awesome.
Right now it's just markup I crammed in there in a pane. It's not.
Can we put that in a module so we can put it everywhere?
Oh, totally.
Does it actually save when you check the boxes?
No.
Oh.
It's totally
I want
fixed.
that.
Right. I understand. I don't know how to write that module, so.
All right, I can help with that.
Okay. Yeah, so you can basically look at the markup that I put in here, and if you can give me this, more or less, then I can work out any kinks that come out of that.
Okay,
so,
that's awesome.
One thing I was thinking from the user experience, so the tutorials link, I was thinking, like, okay, if we have something in this list, it needs to be somewhat condensed. It can't be, we can't have sentences in these checkboxes, but someone might not know what it is, and I would like to have a way for them to go find out about that. So my first thought was make each of the labels a link, but then I thought, well, they should be able to click on the label text and have it update that, and if it takes them to a different page, that would be disruptive. So I was like, okay, maybe we do a tutorials link, and it has a link for each getting started checkbox, which would be more work, but I think totally worth doing. It'd be a good user experience. So.
Okay.
And I would like to rework how this module works, or block, whatever. I don't know if it's part of the user module or what, but just to have Photoshop. Just to have kind of better, I think more standard language around the login. There we go. So
do we still have the profile pictures as part of core? The user pictures?
Unfortunately, yes.
If we have them, we might want to show user pictures up there because
that'd be cool.
Nice little circle like the Google does, and pretty much all the social sites now have little profile pictures up there to see who signed in.
I would totally implement that, but I would also say that I haven't seen Drupal people actually update those except on sites where you're going to speak at that camp. if we put the image there and put like a generic one, it might encourage people to do that. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that if they actually see that they don't have an icon, like, because that always annoys me whenever I go to a site and it just has like a generic thing. I'm like, I always go and like, oh, edit. So.
Yep. So yeah, having this form end up looking more like this, we need a label for accessibility, but can be element invisibled, and we can do placeholders and whatever. But so having the form have this kind of verbiage on here, and that would be the title of the block, and I'd use JavaScript to do anything else. And there was something else about the login form. I mean, that drop down isn't like all that different. What was it?
Can we do that with adding a block to the header, like in the new theme, and then hide it, and then click and show it, and then, like, if we, I don't know.
Adding a block to the header?
Yeah, because we have a user login block, right? And
right.
if we put it in the header instead of in the sidebar.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm currently using that block, but its markup is a little goofy, and
okay.
I guess I could just overwrite it in my theme, right? I don't know exactly how it's set up, but I want to mess with that.
Okay.
Well, we're happy to mess with it too, so if it doesn't make sense, we can always change it.
I think I did a lot of messing with that markup and that block in Backdrop's core theme too, because I was like, this block is meh. So we can fix it for everyone. That would be great.
Theoretically, it might mess up people's sites if we just change the markup of elements.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for Backdrop 2 or something.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I'm trying to think about where I want to be in version 2 and how far I can get without interrupting people's experience. And so my gut is that I can take a fair amount of liberties as long as they're inside of this theme. Is that a good way to think of this, or is that?
Well, it depends if you want people to use it as a base theme. I'm thinking, like, if you want people to use it as a base theme, it'd be good to keep all the sort of liberties to a minimum so everything's easily overridable. Whereas if you wanted, that's why I was sort of arguing for having like a core base theme and then a core fancy theme where we show everything that can be done. So it's like have the base theme is easily overridable.
The liberties are more like improving markup and changing how, like, the login block. Like,
yeah, I think if we keep it to a minimum, it's probably fine. I would say do whatever you want to do, and then we'll look at it and decide how crazy it is.
Okay.
And if it's something we can get away with in the core theme and like not scare people away, then it's fine.
Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I think this thing can double as the simple theme and the fancy theme, because the fanciness will come from config and not the theme itself, I think. And the other thing I did, I was trying to make sure that everything was easily overwritable in the CSS. So if you don't like the fonts I chose, or if you want to handle layout differently and you don't like Flexbox, you can overwrite them in the info file or whatever and do your own thing. I'm not being as granular as D8, but I did want to give some of that. I think that's it.
I think it looks fantastic.
Cool. Good. I will. My next step is we're working on a site. Jared Bittner and I. vr.holodev.com. Yeah. Oh, nice. And so it's going to be Backdrop, and it's a virtual reality site. So you can actually see our team photo in a Google Cardboard or something. So anyway, I'm going to use this theme that I'm working on in this and use it as my base theme and see how I feel and what I would want done differently and whatever. So that's my next step, and then also just waiting for feedback and stuff like that. So I'll be working on this for a while, and trying to think of, how drop could be improved, or basis, whatever the hell we call it. Although, did you guys see why I don't want to call it drop anymore?
No.
In here, it says drop settings. And I was like, maybe not. So I was like, basis, fine. I looked up synonyms for dragon and synonyms for base theme, and I was like, basis, okay. Moving along. So, yep, that's how I came up with the current name.
Drop settings. No!
Oh well.
Don't worry, the settings are in config files. You can't drop them from the database. That's good, Wes. Thanks
Cool.
for all your work.
No problem. I'm having a blast.
All right, well, if no one has anything else they want to talk about today, then maybe we should wrap and then
I
join.
have else. Do
All right.
we have an issue queue or something for marketing-related things that aren't the website?
They're all in the website issue queue.
Okay, because we might want to have a special marketing thing for marketing issues that aren't the website, because I imagine we might do marketing outside of like our website.
Yeah, that's a thought.
For example, I think we need new stickers for people who have these Apple laptops, because unless you guys have figured out a way to put the backdrop sticker on your laptop that doesn't make it look like Drop has a glowing butt. Like,
oh, you mean to cover the apple?
Yes, yes. So the apple shines through, and it looks like Drop has a glowing butt, which is fine. I don't mind that, but it's not exactly the thing. So maybe we come up with some sort of version that somehow incorporates the glowing apple that doesn't make it look like his butt is glowing. I have no idea what that is, but throwing that out there.
Okay. Yes, I agree. We should probably get a sticker that doesn't have a glowing butt. I don't know where to put the issue. I feel like I would love to keep everything kind of in the same place, so that if we have people who are interested in doing marketing, they can see website-related issues and non-website-related issues. There are a bunch of issues in that queue that are like update Wikipedia and, other things that aren't, get a background image for Facebook. So maybe we'll start there, but I know we'd also talked about like setting up a marketing working group, and I think maybe we should find something that's not GitHub that might be a better place to keep track of all of these things.
Another tool.
Another tool! I don't know, I just figured maybe marketing people might not be super excited about working in GitHub, and like if we have a tracker that we're already using for other GitHub things like the website, it makes sense to put it all in there, but like if we have people who are working on marketing stuff, maybe they'd rather have their own way of dealing with it.
In Backdrop.
What's that?
Maybe we should try making a collaboration site in Backdrop.
A website.
Test that out. And perhaps some sort of distribution where people can easily set up a collaboration distribution or something like that.
Is there one of those already for Drupal? That's what OpenAtrium was, right?
Yeah, is what it is. But, it worked well.
Okay. Good idea. I'm a little scared by the amount of work involved, but...
It's just building a website. We do it every day, guys.
Another website.
Well, okay. I need a new Backdrop website to play with now that Daterra is off my plate.
All right. Well, feel free to do a Bactrium. Bactrium.
Back together.
Back together. It's kind of cute, actually.
Yeah. Back to the sticker. Who drew the original sticker?
So we have an illustrator who drew the dragons, and then we took the dragons and handed them to Kevin Thull, and he turned them into stickers. So we have more dragon poses. I don't know if any of the dragon poses we have now would be more suitable to not glowing butt, but we could start there.
I'm thinking maybe instead of like hiding the apple, actually have them sort of curled up around the apple.
That would be cute.
And with his head and his tail sort of coming around the apple from both sides and being those sort of glow.
Is the apple a standard size on all computers of different sizes?
I think so. I don't know. I can look at people's laptops and measure them. But I think they sell stickers. They must be, or at least have only several different versions. So we can. I'm sure the internet knows that.
Yeah, we'll ask the internet. Okay, and then in terms of like if we want to design a new dragon, that's totally possible. I don't know. I would say like if anybody wants to do it, we should ask and say, does anybody want to design a dragon eating an apple or sitting on an apple or curling around an apple or whatever we want? And see if anyone wants to. If not, we could probably also go back to our designer guy and say, we need another dragon. He's a little hard to direct, but if you give him a good idea, sometimes he like runs really excitedly around and comes back with some good stuff. So that's an option too. Okay, so we should, for now, create an issue in the backdropcms.org queue tagged with marketing, and then if we want to split all those into a different GitHub repo, we will, but at least we won't lose it between now and then, or whatever backdrop website we decide to do for those. And then, we should see, maybe we can like tweet about it and see if anyone's super excited about doing that for us. And then if not, or if so, we'll figure it out.
Oh, I just want to interject, Wes. I was just talking about Mike's idea of 2 themes, one of them which could be Bartik. I wasn't talking about we need to do 2 new themes or something like that. You just made a comment, so.
That was the first time I'd heard it, and I was like, wait, what? One's hard enough.
We did, so that's what
that's it.
Drupal 8 went that way, right? Where they have like a really, really minimal theme, and then they have a theme called Classy that like adds all of the classes in, and then they have themes that are sub-themes of Classy that like style things. And I think it's getting a little out of control with the themes that do things to themes that do things to themes. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of having something really clean and sleek that people can sub-theme. I don't know how we get there from where we are now. Drupal 8 went the way of like turning that super clean thing into core, and so they ripped all the classes out of core. But then in order to make core work, they had to put it into a sub-theme called Classy so that they could. And so you can see how the slope gets slippery. But I think like for Backdrop 1.4, the easiest course possible is just to put in one theme and try and keep it as clean as possible. And then we can kind of evaluate how that works through Backdrop 1 and see what people want for Backdrop 2. And if that does need to become a cleaner theme and a bootstrappier theme or something like that, we can do that then. But let's just start with 1 and try and keep it as clean as possible.
Yeah, I feel like that's Stark to some extent, like the really clean theme. It's just that Stark is kind of outdated.
Yeah, so Stark is a little different because the purpose of Stark was to show you what happens when you have a theme that doesn't do anything. And so it's basically like, this is how you can see the markup that comes out of Drupal, like unthemed markup. So it was supposed to be a theme that does nothing. But I feel like that is, like, nobody ever really uses Stark for real. Like, if you want to change the way things come out from Drupal, you just create your own theme, and then you've got all the things the way they come out from Drupal. It doesn't make any sense to use Stark as a sub-theme.
I used it all the time. I would copy it and change the name.
Right, exactly.
That's what I really liked it for. And that would be, I would call that like a starter theme versus a base theme.
Right. And I think like we left Stark in core, and you can still do that in Backdrop. actually not sure. I haven't looked at Stark in a while, but there might be some like layout CSS in there that needs to go. Now that we have layouts, we should probably reevaluate that. But yeah, it's still there. We just made it hidden so that it wouldn't confuse people on the themes page when they're like, oh, I want to see what themes are there, and they turn it on and it's not a theme. It's confusing. I would say we should do the same thing if we end up splitting our new theme into two, like make the base theme also hidden so that people who know about it can find it in the code, but it's not confusing people in the user interface. All right, any other questions? We've got 3 minutes before the next meeting starts.
Will it take us 3 minutes to set up the next Hangout?
Yeah.
It usually takes me that much.
Okay.
Let's take a
Log
break.
in.
All right, well, let's break. We'll see everyone in 3 minutes.
Well, I won't be able to make it, so it was good talking to y'all. We'll talk
Well,
to you
glad you
later.
could make this meeting then, Wes. Thanks for
Yep.
showing us your team.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Wes.
Bye.
Hi guys.